Question 1. Compliance review shows that a healthcare organization is planning to deploy a new video conferencing system for remote patient consultations. The system must ensure the confidentiality and integrity of protected health information, FI, transmitted during these sessions, adhering strictly to U.S. federal regulations. Which of the following design approaches best satisfies these requirements? Option A. Deploy the video conferencing system on a segmented network with standard firewall rules and rely on the inherent security of the chosen vendor's platform. Option B. Utilize a solution that offers basic user authentication and session logging, assuming that network security measures will adequately protect the data. Option C. Implement end-to-end encryption for all video streams and configure granular role-based access controls to limit participant access to specific consultation sessions. Option D. Select the most cost-effective video conferencing solution available and prioritize ease of integration with existing IT infrastructure. Correct answer is C. Implement end-to-end encryption for all video streams and configure granular role-based access controls to limit participant access to specific consultation sessions. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in video infrastructure design, where the need for real-time, high-quality video collaboration conflicts with the imperative to protect sensitive patient data. The core tension lies in balancing functional requirements with stringent data privacy regulations. The challenge is amplified by the distributed nature of healthcare facilities and the potential for data to traverse various network segments, increasing the attack surface. Ensuring compliance while delivering a robust and reliable video solution requires a deep understanding of both technical capabilities and legal obligations. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes data security and privacy by implementing end-to-end encryption and granular access controls. This aligns directly with the principles of data protection mandated by regulations like HIPAA, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, in the U.S., which requires covered entities to implement safeguards to protect protected health information. 5. End-to-end encryption ensures that data is unreadable to unauthorized parties, even if intercepted. Granular access controls limit who can view or interact with specific video streams, further minimizing the risk of unauthorized disclosure. This approach demonstrates a proactive commitment to patient privacy and regulatory adherence, which is a cornerstone of ethical and professional practice in healthcare IT. Incorrect approach is analysis. Implementing a solution that relies solely on network-level security without explicit end-to-end encryption for video streams is a significant regulatory failure. Network security measures, while important, are often insufficient to protect data in transit or at rest from sophisticated threats or insider misuse. This approach fails to meet the minimum necessary standard for accessing PHI and leaves patient data vulnerable to breaches, violating HIPAA security rule. Choosing a solution based primarily on cost-effectiveness or ease of deployment without a thorough security and privacy assessment is also a critical ethical and regulatory lapse. While budget and efficiency are important considerations, they cannot supersede the legal and ethical obligation to protect patient data. This approach risks noncompliance, leading to substantial fines, reputational damage, and a loss of patient trust. Opting for a solution that offers only basic authentication without multi-factor authentication or robust session management is inadequate for protecting sensitive video communications. Weak authentication mechanisms increase the likelihood of unauthorized access, which directly contravenes the security requirements for safeguarding PHI. This oversight can lead to data breaches and a failure to meet the reasonable and appropriate security safeguards mandated by regulations. Professional reasoning. Professionals in video infrastructure design, especially within regulated industries like healthcare, must adopt a risk-based decision-making framework. This framework involves 1. Identifying all applicable regulations and compliance requirements, e.g., HIPAA high-tech. 2. Assessing the sensitivity of the data being transmitted and stored, e.g., FI. 3. Evaluating potential threats and vulnerabilities specific to the video infrastructure. 4. Designing solutions that incorporate robust security controls with a strong emphasis on encryption and access management. 5. Conducting thorough risk assessments and implementing mitigation strategies. 6. Regularly reviewing and updating security measures to adapt to evolving threats and regulatory landscapes. 7. prioritizing patient privacy and data integrity above all other considerations, even if it involves higher initial costs or more complex implementations. Question 2. What factors determine the optimal integration of security controls within a Cisco video infrastructure design to ensure both high-quality video delivery and data protection? Option A. The immediate deployment of the most advanced video codecs available, regardless of endpoint compatibility or network infrastructure capabilities. Option B. The selection of the least expensive video conferencing endpoints and the prioritization of network bandwidth allocation solely for video traffic. Option C. The comprehensive assessment of potential threats, the implementation of encryption for all video streams and control channels, and the establishment of granular access control policies. Option D. The reliance on default security settings provided by the video conferencing platform, and the avoidance of any network segmentation for video traffic. The correct answer is C. The comprehensive assessment of potential threats, the implementation of encryption for all video streams and control channels, and the establishment of granular access control policies. Explanation. The scenario involves designing a video infrastructure for a regulated industry, specifically within the context of the 500-701 Cisco Video Infrastructure Design Exam, which implies adherence to general best practices and potentially industry-specific compliance if the exam context were to imply it, though for this exam, we focus on design principles. The professional challenge lies in balancing the technical requirements of video delivery, quality, latency, scalability, with the need for robust security and data integrity, especially when sensitive information might be transmitted or accessed. The decision-making process requires a thorough understanding of the Cisco video portfolio and how its components can be configured to meet these dual demands. The correct approach prioritizes a layered security model integrated from the outset of the design. This involves implementing strong authentication and authorization mechanisms, encrypting video streams and control signals, and segmenting the network to isolate video traffic. This aligns with general cybersecurity best practices and the principle of security by design, which is crucial for any infrastructure handling potentially sensitive data. It ensures that security is not an afterthought but a fundamental aspect of the architecture, minimizing vulnerabilities and protecting data confidentiality and integrity. This approach is professionally sound because it proactively addresses risks and builds a resilient system. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on cost optimization without adequate security considerations would be professionally unacceptable. This failure stems from a disregard for potential data breaches, unauthorized access, and service disruption, all of which can have severe financial and reputational consequences. Ethically, it represents a failure to protect the organization's assets and data. Another incorrect approach that neglects scalability and future growth in favor of immediate deployment speed would also be professionally unsound. While speed is often a factor, a design that cannot adapt to increasing user demands or evolving video technologies will quickly become obsolete and require costly redesigns, leading to inefficiency and potential service degradation. This represents a failure in long-term strategic planning. Finally, an approach that relies on outdated or unsupported video codecs and protocols, even if they appear cheaper or simpler initially, is professionally flawed. This can lead to interoperability issues, security vulnerabilities inherent in older technologies, and a lack of access to modern features and optimizations. It demonstrates a lack of awareness of current industry standards and best practices. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a comprehensive understanding of business requirements, including security, performance, and scalability needs. This should be followed by an evaluation of available technologies and their suitability, with a strong emphasis on security features and compliance with relevant standards. A risk assessment should inform the design, and a phased implementation approach, allowing for testing and validation, is advisable. Continuous monitoring and adaptation are also key to maintaining a robust and effective video infrastructure. Question 3. The investigation demonstrates that a proposed enterprise-wide video conferencing solution for a UK-based financial services firm is experiencing significant delays in deployment due to unforeseen compliance issues. The project team is now seeking to rectify the situation and ensure future projects avoid similar pitfalls. Which approach best addresses the firm's regulatory obligations and ethical responsibilities in designing and implementing video infrastructure? Option A. Prioritize a comprehensive review of the UK's Data Protection Act 2018 and GDPR, engaging legal counsel to ensure the video infrastructure design adheres to data privacy principles and accessibility standards from the outset, and establish clear protocols for user consent management. Option B. Expedite the deployment by implementing a move fast and break things mentality, addressing any compliance concerns reactively as they arise through ad hoc adjustments to the infrastructure. Option C. Rely on the IT department's general understanding of data security best practices without consulting legal experts, assuming that standard security measures will inherently satisfy all regulatory requirements. Option D. Focus on integrating the most advanced video encoding and streaming technologies available to maximize performance and user experience, assuming that compliance will be addressed as a secondary concern during the operational phase. The correct answer is A. Prioritize a comprehensive review of the UK's Data Protection Act 2018 and GDPR, engaging legal counsel to ensure the video infrastructure design adheres to data privacy principles and accessibility standards from the outset, and establish clear protocols for user consent management. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent complexity of designing and implementing video infrastructure that must comply with evolving regulatory landscapes, particularly concerning data privacy and accessibility. The need to balance technological capabilities with legal and ethical obligations requires careful judgment. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough understanding of the relevant regulatory framework, specifically the UK's Data Protection Act 2018, DPA 2018, and the General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, as incorporated into UK law. This proactive stance ensures that the design inherently incorporates principles of data minimization, purpose limitation, and security by design, which are mandated by these regulations. Engaging with legal counsel early in the design phase is crucial for interpreting these complex laws and translating them into actionable technical requirements, thereby mitigating legal risks and ensuring ethical data handling. This aligns with the CISI ethical guidelines, which emphasize integrity and due diligence in professional conduct. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the latest technological features without considering regulatory implications fails to meet the DPA 2018 and GDPR requirements for lawful processing of personal data. This could lead to significant fines and reputational damage. Another incorrect approach that neglects accessibility standards, such as those outlined in the Equality Act 2010, would not only be a regulatory failure, but also an ethical one, as it excludes individuals with disabilities from accessing the video services. A third incorrect approach that relies on assumptions about user consent, without a robust mechanism for obtaining and managing it, would violate the explicit consent requirements under GDPR and DPA 2018, leading to non-compliance. Professionals should adopt a decision-making framework that begins with a comprehensive review of all applicable regulations and ethical guidelines. This should be followed by a risk assessment that identifies potential compliance gaps. Collaboration with legal experts and stakeholders, including end users, is essential to ensure that the design is both technically sound and legally compliant. Continuous monitoring and adaptation to regulatory changes are also critical components of responsible design and implementation. Question 4. Upon reviewing the proposed Cisco video infrastructure design for a new corporate training facility, which approach to risk assessment would best ensure comprehensive identification and mitigation of potential vulnerabilities without unduly delaying the project timeline? Option A. Limit the risk assessment to a review of vendor documentation and security certifications, without conducting an independent analysis of the specific deployment context. Option B. Conduct a comprehensive, multi-stage risk assessment that begins during the initial design phase and continues through deployment, incorporating feedback loops for iterative refinement based on evolving project details and threat intelligence. Option C. Perform a high-level risk assessment focusing only on basic network security and data transmission integrity, assuming vendor-provided security features are sufficient for all potential threats. Option D. Defer the detailed risk assessment until after the video infrastructure has been fully implemented and is operational to evaluate risks in a live environment. The correct answer is B. Conduct a comprehensive, multi-stage risk assessment that begins during the initial design phase and continues through deployment, incorporating feedback loops for iterative refinement based on evolving project details and threat intelligence. Explanation. Scenario analysis. The scenario presents a common challenge in video infrastructure design, balancing the need for robust risk assessment with the practical constraints of project timelines and resource availability. The professional challenge lies in ensuring that the risk assessment is comprehensive enough to identify potential vulnerabilities in the video infrastructure that could impact business operations, security, or compliance, without becoming an insurmountable bureaucratic hurdle that delays critical deployments. This requires a nuanced understanding of the specific risks associated with video technologies, such as data privacy, unauthorized access, service disruption, and intellectual property theft, and how these risks translate into potential business impacts. The judgment required is to prioritize risks effectively and select appropriate mitigation strategies that are both effective and proportionate to the identified threats. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a phased risk assessment methodology that aligns with the project lifecycle and leverages existing organizational risk management frameworks. This approach is best professional practice because it ensures that risks are identified, analyzed, and addressed proactively throughout the design and implementation phases. It allows for iterative refinement of the risk assessment as more information becomes available and as the design evolves. This aligns with general principles of good IT governance and security best practices, which emphasize a continuous risk management process. Specifically, for video infrastructure, this means considering risks related to content integrity, user authentication, network bandwidth utilization, and compliance with data protection regulations, e.g., GDPR if applicable to the jurisdiction. Though for this exam, we focus on general principles without specific jurisdictional mandates unless provided. By integrating risk assessment into the design process, potential issues can be mitigated early, reducing the cost and complexity of remediation later. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to conduct a superficial risk assessment that only addresses the most obvious threats, such as basic network security. This fails to account for the unique vulnerabilities of video systems, such as the potential for unauthorized recording, manipulation of video feeds, or breaches of privacy related to captured imagery. This approach is professionally unacceptable, as it leaves the organization exposed to significant risks that could lead to financial loss, reputational damage, or legal liabilities. Another incorrect approach is to delay the risk assessment until after the video infrastructure has been fully deployed. This is a reactive rather than proactive stance. It is professionally unacceptable because it significantly increases the cost and difficulty of addressing identified risks. Remediation efforts after deployment are often more disruptive and expensive than incorporating mitigation strategies during the design phase. Furthermore, it may lead to the discovery of fundamental design flaws that cannot be easily corrected without a complete overhaul, potentially causing project delays and budget overruns. A third incorrect approach is to rely solely on vendor-provided security features without independent verification or a tailored risk assessment. While vendor solutions are important, they are not a panacea. This approach is professionally unacceptable because it assumes that vendor claims directly translate to the specific operational environment and threat landscape of the organization. A proper risk assessment must consider the unique context, including integration with existing systems, user access patterns, and specific compliance requirements, which vendor documentation may not fully address. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a structured, iterative, and context-aware approach to risk assessment. This involves 1. Understanding the business context and objectives of the video infrastructure. 2. Identifying potential threats and vulnerabilities specific to video technologies and the deployment environment. 3. Analyzing the likelihood and impact of identified risks. 4. Prioritizing risks based on their potential severity. 5. Developing and implementing appropriate mitigation strategies. 6. Regularly reviewing and updating the risk assessment as the infrastructure evolves and new threats emerge. This systematic process ensures that risk management is an integral part of the design and operational lifecycle, promoting robust and secure video solutions. Question 5. The monitoring system demonstrates a consistent, low-level packet loss on a critical video conferencing segment, impacting call quality for a small but influential group of users, and the anomaly has been present for approximately 48 hours. Option A. Disable the affected video conferencing feature for all users until the packet loss issue can be fully resolved. Option B. Document the anomaly and continue monitoring, assuming it is a transient issue that will resolve itself without intervention. Option C. Immediately initiate a rollback of the most recent network configuration changes applied to the segment, assuming they are the cause, without further investigation. Option D. Conduct a detailed impact assessment by analyzing network telemetry, correlating packet loss with specific call events, and evaluating potential root causes such as link congestion, hardware degradation, or configuration errors before proposing any remediation. Correct answer is D. Conduct a detailed impact assessment by analyzing network telemetry, correlating packet loss with specific call events, and evaluating potential root causes such as link congestion, hardware degradation, or configuration errors before proposing any remediation. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the monitoring system has detected an anomaly that could impact the integrity and availability of video infrastructure services. The challenge lies in accurately assessing the impact of this anomaly without causing undue disruption or misinterpreting the data, which could lead to incorrect remediation actions. Careful judgment is required to balance the need for swift action with the potential for unintended consequences. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a systematic and data-driven impact assessment before implementing any changes. This aligns with the principles of responsible IT service management and adherence to service-level agreements, SLAs, that are often implicitly or explicitly governed by industry best practices and potentially regulatory guidelines concerning service continuity and data integrity. Even if not explicitly detailed in the 500-701 syllabus itself. A thorough assessment ensures that any proposed solution directly addresses the root cause of the anomaly and minimizes the risk of introducing new issues or negatively affecting other services. This methodical approach is crucial for maintaining user trust and operational stability. An incorrect approach that involves immediately reverting the system to a previous known good state without understanding the anomaly's scope or cause is professionally unacceptable. This could lead to data loss if the anomaly has already caused irreversible changes, or it might fail to address the underlying issue, leading to its recurrence. Ethically, this approach disregards the principle of due diligence and could violate SLAs by causing unnecessary downtime or service degradation. Another incorrect approach, such as disabling the affected feature entirely without a proper impact analysis, is also professionally unsound. This might resolve the immediate symptom, but could cripple essential functionalities, leading to significant business disruption and potentially violating service commitments. It demonstrates a lack of understanding of the interconnectedness of video infrastructure components and a failure to consider the broader operational context. A third incorrect approach, which is to ignore the anomaly hoping it resolves itself, is the most egregious failure. This demonstrates a severe lack of professional responsibility and a disregard for service availability and user experience. It directly contravenes the proactive monitoring and incident response principles expected in any IT environment, potentially leading to significant service outages and reputational damage. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured incident response framework. This typically includes 1. Detection and logging of the anomaly. 2. Initial assessment to understand the nature and potential severity of the issue. 3. Impact analysis to determine the scope of affected services and users. 4. Diagnosis to identify the root cause. 5. Resolution and recovery. 6. Post-incident review to learn from the event and improve future responses. Throughout this process, clear communication with stakeholders and adherence to established operational procedures are paramount. Question 6. Examination of the data shows that a new corporate headquarters is implementing a comprehensive video conferencing and surveillance system. The network infrastructure has limited available bandwidth, and the video streams, particularly from the surveillance cameras, are considered sensitive. The design team needs to select an appropriate strategy for transmitting and securing these video streams to ensure both quality of service and data integrity. Option A. Implement end-to-end encryption for all video streams. Select a video codec that provides strong compression with minimal quality degradation and configure quality of service, Co-S, policies to prioritize video traffic over less critical data. Option B, encrypt only the surveillance video streams, as they are deemed more sensitive, and transmit the video conferencing streams unencrypted to maximize bandwidth for interactive communication. Option C, transmit all video streams unencrypted to conserve bandwidth and processing power, relying on physical network security to prevent unauthorized access. Option D, utilize the highest compression video codec available, regardless of potential quality loss, and assume the network can handle the aggregate traffic without any specific prioritization. The correct answer is A. Implement end-to-end encryption for all video streams. Select a video codec that provides strong compression with minimal quality degradation, and configure quality of service, Co-S, policies to prioritize video traffic over less critical data. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in video infrastructure design, balancing the need for high-quality, real-time video delivery with the constraints of network bandwidth and the security implications of transmitting sensitive data. The professional challenge lies in making a design decision that is technically sound, cost-effective, and compliant with any relevant data privacy regulations. Even if not explicitly stated in the exam syllabus, the underlying principles of data handling and security are paramount. Careful judgment is required to avoid compromising either the user experience or the integrity and confidentiality of the video streams. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a layered security model and efficient bandwidth utilization. By implementing end-to-end encryption and selecting a codec that offers a good balance between quality and compression, the design ensures that video data is protected from unauthorized access during transit and at rest. Furthermore, considering the network's capacity and implementing quality of service, Co-S mechanisms are crucial for guaranteeing reliable performance for critical video applications, preventing packet loss and jitter that could degrade the user experience. This holistic approach aligns with general principles of secure and efficient network design, which are implicitly expected in professional contexts, even without specific regulatory mandates for this exact scenario. An incorrect approach that fails to implement encryption would be professionally unacceptable due to the inherent security risk. Transmitting unencrypted video streams, especially if they contain sensitive information, violates fundamental principles of data confidentiality and could lead to data breaches. This exposes the organization to potential legal liabilities and reputational damage. Another incorrect approach that ignores bandwidth limitations and Co-S would lead to an unreliable and degraded video service. This would result in poor user experience, potentially impacting business operations that rely on the video infrastructure, and demonstrates a lack of foresight in network resource management. A third incorrect approach that prioritizes only the highest compression codec without considering the impact on video quality would also be professionally deficient, as it fails to meet the functional requirements of the video service. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a thorough assessment of requirements, including technical performance, security needs, and user experience expectations. It requires evaluating available technologies and their trade-offs, such as different encryption methods, codecs, and network optimization techniques. A risk assessment should be conducted to identify potential vulnerabilities and their impact. Finally, the chosen solution should be validated against best practices for network design and security, ensuring it is robust, scalable, and maintainable. Question 7. Performance analysis shows that a new video collaboration solution is experiencing intermittent quality degradation and occasional data access issues when integrated with a third-party cloud storage provider for recording and archiving. The design team is considering several options to address these issues while ensuring compliance with data privacy regulations. Which of the following approaches best balances technical performance, data security, and regulatory adherence? Option A. Increase the data retention period in the cloud to capture more historical data, hoping that this will help identify the root cause of performance degradation through retrospective analysis. Option B. Focus solely on optimizing network bandwidth and latency between the on-premises infrastructure and the cloud provider, assuming that end-to-end encryption will sufficiently protect all data. Option C. Migrate all video recording and archiving to an on-premises solution to eliminate reliance on the third-party cloud, even if it incurs significant infrastructure costs and reduces accessibility. Option D. Implement a robust data classification and anonymization process for all recorded video content before it is transmitted to the third-party cloud, and ensure the cloud provider's data handling policies are reviewed and certified against relevant data protection standards. The correct answer is D. Implement a robust data classification and anonymization process for all recorded video content before it is transmitted to the third-party cloud, and ensure the cloud provider's data handling policies are reviewed and certified against relevant data protection standards. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge rooted in the critical need to ensure the integrity and compliance of video infrastructure design within a specific regulatory environment. The core difficulty lies in balancing the technical requirements of a new video collaboration solution with the stringent data privacy and security mandates that govern the handling of sensitive information. Professionals must navigate the complexities of data flow, storage, and access controls to prevent unauthorized disclosure or misuse of information, which could lead to significant legal repercussions and reputational damage. The chosen approach must not only meet functional objectives, but also demonstrably adhere to the established legal and ethical standards. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a comprehensive risk assessment and mitigation strategy that is directly aligned with the regulatory framework. By engaging legal and compliance teams early, the design process ensures that all technical decisions are vetted against data protection laws and organizational policies. This proactive stance minimizes the likelihood of noncompliance, which is a fundamental ethical and legal obligation. It demonstrates a commitment to responsible data stewardship and builds trust with stakeholders by ensuring that privacy is a foundational element of the design, not an afterthought. An incorrect approach that overlooks the need for data classification and anonymization before transmission to a third-party cloud service fails to meet regulatory requirements for data protection. Specifically, it violates principles of data minimization and purpose limitation, potentially exposing sensitive information without adequate safeguards. Another incorrect approach that relies solely on end-to-end encryption without considering data residency and access control mechanisms for the cloud provider neglects critical aspects of compliance. Encryption alone does not absolve the organization of responsibility for how data is managed and accessed by third parties, especially if the cloud provider's jurisdiction has different data privacy laws. A third incorrect approach that bypasses the review of the cloud provider's security certifications and data handling practices is professionally negligent. It assumes compliance without due diligence, which is a direct contravention of the duty of care owed to data subjects and the organization. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a structured, risk-based approach. First, thoroughly understand the data being transmitted and processed, including its sensitivity and classification. Second, identify all applicable regulatory requirements and organizational policies related to data privacy and security. Third, evaluate potential technical solutions against these requirements, considering factors like data residency, access controls, encryption, and third-party vendor compliance. Fourth, engage relevant stakeholders, including legal, compliance, and security teams, throughout the design and implementation phases. Finally, document all decisions and justifications to demonstrate due diligence and ensure auditability. Question 8. Market research demonstrates that financial services firms are increasingly adopting advanced video conferencing solutions for client engagement and internal collaboration. For a UK-based investment bank, what is the most appropriate approach to optimizing its video infrastructure to enhance user experience and operational efficiency, while strictly adhering to the Financial Conduct Authority (FCA) regulations and the General Data Protection Regulation (GDPR)? Option A. Prioritize the integration of cutting-edge video analytics features to gain market insights, with a secondary consideration for data security and regulatory compliance, addressing any identified gaps only if they become a direct impediment to operations. Option B. Focus on deploying the highest bandwidth video solutions available to maximize real-time interaction quality, deferring detailed security and compliance reviews until after the initial performance improvements are realized. Option C. Implement a phased rollout of new video conferencing endpoints and software, ensuring all new deployments include end-to-end encryption, granular access controls, and comprehensive audit logging capabilities that align with FCA and GDPR requirements for data integrity and privacy. Option D. Select a single, cost-effective video conferencing platform that offers basic collaboration features, assuming that standard cloud-based security measures are sufficient to meet FCA and GDPR mandates without further customization. The correct answer is C. Implement a phased rollout of new video conferencing endpoints and software, ensuring all new deployments include end-to-end encryption, granular access controls, and comprehensive audit logging capabilities that align with FCA and GDPR requirements for data integrity and privacy. Explanation: Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge in optimizing video infrastructure design for a financial services firm. The core difficulty lies in balancing the need for real-time, high-fidelity video communication, critical for rapid decision-making and client interactions in finance, with the stringent regulatory requirements for data integrity, security, and auditability. The firm operates under specific financial regulations that mandate secure data handling and retention, making any design choice subject to compliance scrutiny. Failure to adhere to these regulations can result in severe penalties, reputational damage, and loss of client trust. Therefore, a meticulous and compliant approach to process optimization is paramount. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes a phased implementation that integrates robust security protocols and audit trails from the outset. This involves a thorough assessment of existing infrastructure, identification of critical video workflows, and the selection of technologies that support end-to-end encryption, granular access controls, and comprehensive logging. By adopting a strategy that embeds compliance into the design and deployment phases, the firm ensures that its optimized video infrastructure not only meets performance objectives, but also satisfies all regulatory mandates. This proactive, compliance-first methodology is best professional practice because it minimizes the risk of future remediation efforts and ensures long-term operational stability and legal adherence. It aligns with the principle of security by design and privacy by design, which are increasingly expected within regulated industries. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves prioritizing cost reduction and immediate performance gains without adequately considering the regulatory implications. This could lead to the adoption of less secure or non-compliant technologies, or the skipping of essential security and auditing features to save time or money. Such an approach would represent a significant regulatory failure, as financial services are subject to strict data protection and auditability laws. Another incorrect approach is to implement optimizations in isolation, without a holistic view of how they impact data flow, security, and compliance across the entire video infrastructure. This siloed thinking can create vulnerabilities and compliance gaps that are difficult to identify and rectify later. Ethically, this approach demonstrates a disregard for the firm's responsibility to protect sensitive client data and maintain transparent operations. A third incorrect approach might be to rely solely on vendor claims of compliance without independent verification or integration into the firm's own compliance framework. This abdicates responsibility and can lead to unforeseen compliance breaches if vendor solutions do not fully meet the specific regulatory interpretations applicable to the firm. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this domain must adopt a risk-based decision-making process. This involves 1. Understanding the specific regulatory landscape applicable to the industry and jurisdiction. 2. Conducting a comprehensive risk assessment of potential design choices against these regulations. 3. Engaging with legal and compliance teams early and often throughout the design process. 4. Favoring solutions that offer demonstrable compliance features and auditability. 5. Implementing a phased approach that allows for testing and validation of compliance at each stage. 6. Documenting all design decisions and their rationale, particularly concerning compliance. This methodical approach ensures that process optimization enhances efficiency and security while upholding all legal and ethical obligations. Question 9. Analysis of the proposed Cisco video infrastructure designs adherence to the specific regulatory framework for the exam's jurisdiction, focusing on how potential impacts on data privacy and content security are identified and mitigated. Option A. Prioritize the implementation of the most advanced video compression technologies to maximize bandwidth efficiency, assuming that regulatory compliance will be addressed in a later operational phase. Option B. Adopt the video infrastructure design principles and security protocols commonly used in other developed countries, as these are generally robust and likely to meet the spirit of the local regulations. Option C. Focus on achieving the highest possible video quality and lowest latency, as these are generally considered best practices and are likely to satisfy any implicit regulatory requirements. Option D. Conduct a detailed impact assessment that maps the design's features and functionalities against each relevant clause of the specified regulatory framework, documenting any potential compliance gaps and outlining specific mitigation strategies to ensure full adherence. The correct answer is D. Conduct a detailed impact assessment that maps the design's features and functionalities against each relevant clause of the specified regulatory framework, documenting any potential compliance gaps and outlining specific mitigation strategies to ensure full adherence. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge in designing a video infrastructure that must comply with the specific regulatory framework governing the exam's jurisdiction. The core difficulty lies in ensuring that the chosen design not only meets technical performance requirements, but also adheres strictly to the mandated regulations, which often dictate aspects like data privacy, content security, and accessibility. Failure to do so can lead to significant legal repercussions, reputational damage, and project failure. The need for a robust impact assessment is paramount to proactively identify and mitigate these risks. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough and documented impact assessment that explicitly considers the implications of the proposed video infrastructure design against the specific regulatory framework. This includes identifying all relevant regulations, evaluating how the design might affect compliance, and proposing mitigation strategies. This represents best professional practice because it demonstrates due diligence, a commitment to legal and ethical standards, and a proactive risk management strategy. Adherence to the specified regulatory framework is not optional. It is a fundamental requirement for any professional design. This approach ensures that the design is not only technically sound, but also legally defensible and ethically responsible within the given jurisdiction. Incorrect approaches analysis. Focusing solely on technical performance metrics without a corresponding regulatory impact assessment is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This approach ignores the legal obligations and potential liabilities associated with noncompliance. It is professionally unacceptable because it prioritizes functionality over legality, potentially exposing the organization to fines, sanctions, and legal action. Prioritizing cost-effectiveness above all else, without adequately assessing regulatory implications, also constitutes a regulatory and ethical failure. While cost is a factor, it cannot supersede legal requirements. This approach risks implementing a solution that, while cheap, is non-compliant, leading to much higher costs in the long run due to penalties and remediation efforts. Implementing a design based on industry best practices from other jurisdictions, without verifying their applicability and compliance with the *specific regulatory framework of the exam's jurisdiction, is another critical failure. Regulations are jurisdiction-specific. Relying on external standards without local validation is a direct violation of the requirement to adhere to the specified framework and can lead to severe noncompliance. Professional reasoning. Professionals must adopt a risk-based approach to design. This involves 1. Identifying all applicable regulatory requirements for the specific jurisdiction. 2. Conducting a comprehensive impact assessment of the proposed design against these requirements. 3. Documenting all findings, including potential compliance gaps and proposed mitigation strategies. 4. Seeking expert legal or compliance review if there is any uncertainty regarding regulatory interpretation. 5. Prioritizing compliance as a foundational element of the design, alongside technical and business objectives. This systematic process ensures that the design is not only technically viable, but also legally sound and ethically responsible, safeguarding the organization and its stakeholders. Question 10. The efficiency study reveals that the current video conferencing infrastructure struggles to support seamless collaboration between on-premises legacy endpoints and the newly adopted cloud-based platform, leading to frequent connection failures and degraded audio-visual quality during critical executive meetings. The IT department is tasked with resolving this interoperability challenge while adhering to strict data security protocols and budget constraints. Which of the following strategies best addresses this situation? Option A. Immediately upgrade all legacy on-premises endpoints to the latest cloud-native models to ensure full compatibility, bypassing any interim solutions. Option B. Deploy a basic protocol converter with minimal security features to bridge the gap between the two platforms, prioritizing immediate cost reduction. Option C. Implement a universal media gateway solution that supports protocol translation and advanced codec compatibility between the legacy and cloud environments, coupled with a phased rollout plan that includes rigorous security testing and user acceptance testing for each phase. Option D. Advise all users to exclusively utilize the cloud platform for new meetings and to reschedule any existing meetings that require legacy endpoint participation until a full migration can be completed. The correct answer is C. Implement a universal media gateway solution that supports protocol translation and advanced codec compatibility between the legacy and cloud environments, coupled with a phased rollout plan that includes rigorous security testing and user acceptance testing for each phase. Explanation. The efficiency study reveals a significant bottleneck in the organization's video conferencing infrastructure, specifically concerning the integration of legacy on-premises video endpoints with a new cloud-based collaboration platform. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the immediate need for enhanced collaboration with the long-term strategic goals of the IT department, while also ensuring compliance with data privacy regulations and maintaining a positive user experience. The organization must navigate the complexities of interoperability, security, and cost-effectiveness without disrupting ongoing business operations. The correct approach involves a phased migration strategy that prioritizes interoperability and security. This means implementing a robust gateway solution that can translate protocols between the legacy and cloud environments, ensuring seamless communication. Simultaneously, a comprehensive security audit of both the legacy and cloud components must be conducted, with remediation steps taken to address any vulnerabilities. This approach represents best professional practice because it adheres to the principles of responsible technology adoption, minimizing risk while maximizing the benefits of the new platform. It also aligns with general IT governance frameworks that emphasize phased rollouts, thorough testing, and continuous security monitoring. An incorrect approach would be to immediately decommission all legacy endpoints without a viable interim solution. This would lead to significant disruption, alienating users and potentially impacting critical business functions. From a regulatory perspective, if any of the legacy systems handle sensitive data, their abrupt shutdown without proper data migration or archival could violate data retention policies or privacy laws, leading to compliance issues. Another incorrect approach would be to deploy a gateway solution without adequate security vetting. This could expose the entire network to potential breaches, violating data security mandates and potentially leading to severe reputational and financial damage. A third incorrect approach would be to prioritize cost savings by selecting the cheapest, least feature-rich gateway, neglecting essential interoperability features. This would result in a poor user experience, increased support costs, and ultimately fail to achieve the desired efficiency gains, demonstrating a lack of strategic foresight and a failure to meet business requirements. Professionals should approach such situations by first conducting a thorough assessment of the current infrastructure, identifying critical dependencies and potential risks. This should be followed by a detailed analysis of available solutions, evaluating them against technical requirements, security standards, and business objectives. A phased implementation plan, including pilot testing and user training, is crucial for successful adoption. Continuous monitoring and adaptation are also key to ensuring the long-term success of the infrastructure. Question 11. Quality control measures reveal that a new video conferencing solution being deployed across multiple departments within an organization has potential vulnerabilities related to the capture and storage of sensitive meeting content. The primary concern is ensuring compliance with data privacy regulations, while maintaining the functionality required by various user groups. Which of the following design considerations best addresses these competing demands from a stakeholder perspective, adhering strictly to the regulatory framework for data protection and privacy? Option A. Deploy the system with minimal security configurations to ensure ease of access and maximum participation, relying on user discretion to manage the privacy of shared content and assuming that internal policies are sufficient. Option B. Prioritize the deployment of advanced video enhancement features and high-fidelity audio to maximize user experience, with basic network-level security measures in place, assuming users will adhere to best practices for data handling. Option C. Implement end-to-end encryption for all video streams and stored recordings, coupled with granular role-based access controls and a comprehensive data retention and deletion policy, subject to regular independent security audits. Option D. Focus on implementing a single, robust firewall at the network perimeter and mandate that all users operate within a virtual private network, VPN, for all video conferencing activities, without specific encryption for the video content itself. The correct answer is C. Implement end-to-end encryption for all video streams and stored recordings, coupled with granular role-based access controls and a comprehensive data retention and deletion policy, subject to regular independent security audits. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in video infrastructure design, where the technical implementation must align with diverse stakeholder expectations and regulatory compliance. The core difficulty lies in balancing the desire for advanced features and high-quality user experience with the stringent requirements of data privacy and security, particularly concerning the capture and storage of sensitive information. The need to satisfy both end users and compliance officers, who operate under different mandates and priorities, creates inherent tension. Furthermore, the rapid evolution of video technology and associated privacy regulations necessitates a proactive and adaptable design approach. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach emphasizes a layered security model and robust data governance policies, directly addressing the regulatory framework for data protection and privacy relevant to the exam's jurisdiction. This involves implementing end-to-end encryption for all video streams and stored content, ensuring that data is protected both in transit and at rest. Access controls must be granular, adhering to the principle of least privilege, meaning users only have access to the data necessary for their specific roles. Regular security audits and compliance checks are crucial to verify adherence to these policies and to identify any potential vulnerabilities. This approach aligns with the ethical obligation to protect user data and the legal requirement to comply with data privacy laws, such as those governing the handling of personally identifiable information. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing a system that prioritizes feature richness over data security without adequate encryption or access controls would be a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This approach risks unauthorized access to sensitive video feeds, violating privacy laws, and potentially leading to severe reputational damage and legal penalties. Another incorrect approach would be to deploy a system with overly restrictive access controls that hinder legitimate business operations and user experience, even if it appears secure. While seemingly protective, this can lead to user frustration and workarounds that bypass intended security measures, creating new vulnerabilities. Furthermore, failing to conduct regular security assessments and updates leaves the system susceptible to emerging threats, a clear breach of due diligence, and potentially a violation of ongoing compliance obligations. Relying solely on network-level security without considering application-level encryption and data lifecycle management is also insufficient, as it leaves data vulnerable if the network perimeter is breached. Professional reasoning. Professionals must adopt a risk-based approach, prioritizing data security and privacy from the initial design phase. This involves engaging with all stakeholders, including legal and compliance teams, to understand their requirements and concerns. A thorough threat modeling exercise should be conducted to identify potential risks and vulnerabilities. The design should then incorporate security and privacy by design principle, ensuring that these considerations are embedded throughout the infrastructure. Regular training for personnel involved in managing and operating the video infrastructure is also essential to foster a culture of security awareness and compliance. Continuous monitoring and adaptation to evolving threats and regulations are paramount for long-term success and adherence to professional standards. Question 12. Research into the design of a new enterprise-wide video conferencing solution for a U.S.-based educational institution that will be used by students, faculty, and staff, including students under the age of 13, raises critical questions regarding compliance with U.S. federal regulations. The institution aims to leverage advanced features such as session recording, screen sharing of potentially sensitive student work, and integration with learning management systems. Given the presence of minors, what is the most appropriate initial design consideration to ensure regulatory adherence? Option A. Focus on the technical integration capabilities of the video platform with existing IT infrastructure, deferring detailed privacy and compliance reviews until after the initial deployment phase. Option B. Prioritize the selection of a video platform with the most robust feature set and assume that standard enterprise security protocols will adequately address privacy concerns for all user groups. Option C. Implement a broad consent mechanism for all users, assuming that a single, overarching consent form will satisfy all regulatory requirements for data collection and usage across different age groups. Option D. Conduct a comprehensive privacy impact assessment, PIA, to identify potential risks to user privacy, particularly concerning minors, and ensure the chosen infrastructure design explicitly incorporates COPPA requirements and data minimization principles. Correct answer is B. Prioritize the selection of a video platform with the most robust feature set and assume that standard enterprise security protocols will adequately address privacy concerns for all user groups. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between rapid deployment of new video services and the stringent requirements for data privacy and security mandated by U.S. federal regulations, specifically the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, COPPA, and potentially aspects of HIPAA if health-related content is involved. The need to integrate a new video conferencing platform that handles user-generated content, including potentially sensitive information, necessitates a thorough understanding of how these regulations apply to the design and implementation of the video infrastructure. Careful judgment is required to balance the business objective of offering advanced features with the legal and ethical obligation to protect user data, especially that of minors. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a privacy-by-design methodology. By conducting a comprehensive privacy impact assessment (PIA) and ensuring the chosen video infrastructure components comply with COPPA and relevant data protection principles, the design team demonstrates a commitment to regulatory adherence and user trust. This proactive stance minimizes the risk of legal penalties, reputational damage, and breaches of user privacy. It aligns with the ethical responsibility to safeguard sensitive information and ensures the infrastructure is built on a foundation of compliance, which is a cornerstone of professional conduct in technology design. An incorrect approach that fails to conduct a PIA and assumes existing security measures are sufficient is professionally unacceptable. This is because it ignores the specific requirements of COPPA, which mandates parental consent for data collection from children under 13, and imposes strict limitations on how such data can be used and stored. Without a PIA, the design team is operating on assumptions rather than verified compliance, creating a significant risk of violating COPPA. This constitutes a regulatory failure and an ethical lapse, as it prioritizes expediency over the protection of vulnerable users. Another incorrect approach that focuses solely on the technical capabilities of the video platform without considering data handling and user consent mechanisms is also professionally unsound. This approach overlooks the critical legal obligations surrounding data privacy. For instance, if the platform allows for recording of sessions without explicit consent or clear opt-out mechanisms, it could violate privacy laws. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a failure to integrate legal and ethical considerations into the technical design, leading to potential regulatory noncompliance and a breach of professional responsibility. Finally, an approach that delegates all privacy and compliance responsibilities to a separate legal team without involving the design engineers in the process is flawed. While legal counsel is essential, the design of the video infrastructure itself must incorporate privacy considerations from the outset. Engineers need to understand the regulatory constraints to make informed design choices. Relying solely on a post-design legal review can lead to costly redesigns or the implementation of inadequate workarounds, failing to achieve true privacy by design. This approach represents a failure in integrated professional decision-making. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a multidisciplinary approach from the project's inception. This includes 1. Clearly defining the scope of the video infrastructure and the types of data it will handle. 2. Identifying all applicable U.S. federal and state privacy regulations, e.g., COPPA, HIPAA, CCPA. 3. Conducting a thorough privacy impact assessment to identify risks and mitigation strategies. 4. Integrating privacy and security requirements into the technical design specifications. 5. Collaborating closely with legal and compliance teams throughout the design and implementation phases. 6. Establishing ongoing monitoring and auditing processes to ensure continued compliance. This systematic and integrated approach ensures that technical solutions are not only functional, but also legally sound and ethically responsible. Question 13. The assessment process reveals that a new video conferencing solution is being considered for deployment across a large enterprise. While the proposed solution offers advanced features and a competitive price point, there are concerns regarding its compliance with data privacy regulations and its potential impact on existing network infrastructure. Which of the following approaches best addresses these concerns and ensures responsible deployment? Option A. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment that evaluates technical feasibility, operational changes, financial implications, and adherence to relevant U.S. data privacy laws and accessibility standards, developing a risk mitigation plan based on the findings. Option B. Prioritize the selection of the solution with the lowest upfront cost, assuming that any compliance issues can be addressed through post-deployment patches and updates. Option C. Implement the new video solution immediately to gain early access to its advanced features, deferring any detailed impact assessment or compliance review until after the system is fully operational. Option D. Focus solely on the technical capabilities and performance metrics of the video solution, as these are the primary drivers for adopting new technology, and address any regulatory or privacy concerns only if they are explicitly raised by external auditors. Correct answer is A. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment that evaluates technical feasibility, operational changes, financial implications, and adherence to relevant U.S. data privacy laws and accessibility standards, developing a risk mitigation plan based on the findings. Explanation. The assessment process reveals a critical need to evaluate the impact of introducing a new video conferencing solution within an organization. This scenario is professionally challenging because the decision-makers must balance technological advancement with adherence to established regulatory frameworks and ethical considerations. The chosen solution must not only meet functional requirements, but also comply with data privacy, security, and accessibility standards relevant to the jurisdiction. Failure to conduct a thorough impact assessment can lead to significant legal penalties, reputational damage, and operational disruptions. The correct approach involves a comprehensive impact assessment that systematically identifies potential risks and benefits across various domains, including technical, operational, financial, and regulatory. This includes evaluating how the new video infrastructure will affect existing systems, user workflows, data handling practices, and compliance with relevant regulations. For instance, in the U.S., this would necessitate considering regulations like HIPAA for healthcare data, COPPA for children's data, and general data privacy principles under state laws. The assessment should also consider accessibility standards, such as those mandated by the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, ensuring the video solution is usable by individuals with disabilities. This proactive, risk-aware methodology represents best professional practice by ensuring that the organization makes informed decisions that mitigate potential negative consequences and maximize the value of the new technology while upholding its legal and ethical obligations. An incorrect approach would be to prioritize only the cost savings or immediate functional benefits of the new video solution without adequately considering its broader implications. For example, selecting a solution solely based on its low upfront cost without assessing its data security protocols could lead to a violation of data protection laws if sensitive information is mishandled. This would be a regulatory failure, as organizations have a legal duty to protect user data. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore accessibility requirements, thereby potentially violating anti-discrimination laws and excluding a segment of the user base. This represents an ethical and legal failure. Furthermore, Implementing a solution without assessing its integration with existing IT infrastructure could lead to operational disruptions and security vulnerabilities, which, while not always directly tied to a specific regulation, can indirectly lead to non-compliance with security standards and best practices. Professionals should employ a structured decision-making process that begins with clearly defining the project objectives and scope. This should be followed by a thorough stakeholder analysis to identify all parties affected by the new video infrastructure. The core of the process involves conducting a detailed impact assessment, covering technical feasibility, operational changes, financial implications, and, crucially, regulatory and ethical compliance. This assessment should involve cross-functional teams, including IT, legal, compliance, and end users. Based on the findings, a risk mitigation plan should be developed, and the chosen solution should be selected based on a holistic evaluation of its pros and cons, with a strong emphasis on compliance and ethical considerations. Regular review and adaptation of the assessment throughout the project lifecycle are also vital. Question 14. When evaluating a proposed video infrastructure design for a corporate campus that includes extensive surveillance capabilities, what is the most ethically sound and professionally responsible approach to address potential privacy concerns of employees and visitors? Option A. Design the system to capture only the minimum necessary data for clearly defined security objectives, implement strict access controls, and ensure transparent communication with employees and visitors regarding the scope and purpose of the surveillance, including mechanisms for consent where appropriate. Option B. Deploy the most advanced video analytics features available to provide the client with the richest possible insights, without explicitly detailing the specific types of data being collected or how it will be used, as this level of detail might complicate the implementation. Option C. Implement the surveillance system with the broadest possible coverage and data retention to ensure maximum security and accountability, assuming that the client's directive for comprehensive monitoring supersedes individual privacy considerations. Option D. Prioritize the client's stated security requirements above all else, and defer any privacy-related discussions to the client's legal department, assuming they have addressed all necessary compliance. Correct answer is C. Implement the surveillance system with the broadest possible coverage and data retention to ensure maximum security and accountability, assuming that the client's directive for comprehensive monitoring supersedes individual privacy considerations. Explanation. This scenario presents an ethical dilemma common in technology design and implementation, particularly concerning data privacy and security within a video infrastructure context. The challenge lies in balancing the client's desire for comprehensive monitoring with the ethical and regulatory obligations to protect individual privacy. The Cisco 500-701 exam focuses on designing robust and compliant video solutions, which inherently involves understanding the ethical implications of data collection and usage. The correct approach prioritizes data minimization and explicit consent, aligning with principles of privacy by design and data protection regulations. This demonstrates a commitment to ethical technology deployment, where user rights are respected and protected. It acknowledges that while technology can enable extensive monitoring, its application must be governed by ethical considerations and legal frameworks. Incorrect approaches fail to adequately address these ethical and regulatory imperatives. One approach might involve a broad interpretation of client needs without sufficient consideration for privacy, potentially leading to overcollection of sensitive data. Another might overlook the importance of transparency and consent, assuming that client directives supersede individual privacy rights. A third might focus solely on technical feasibility without evaluating the ethical ramifications of the proposed design. These failures can result in regulatory noncompliance, reputational damage, and erosion of trust. Professionals should adopt a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough understanding of the client's objectives, followed by an assessment of potential privacy and security risks. This involves consulting relevant data protection laws and ethical guidelines, engaging in open communication with the client about these considerations, and designing solutions that incorporate privacy-enhancing technologies and practices from the outset. The goal is to deliver effective solutions that are also responsible and ethical. Question 15. Which approach would be most appropriate for a Cisco video infrastructure design project that requires strict adherence to the regulatory framework for data privacy and content delivery as mandated by U.S. federal and state laws? Option A. Focus on a design that leverages open-source video streaming solutions to minimize licensing costs, with the understanding that specific regulatory compliance will be handled by the end-user organization. Option B. Implement a design that prioritizes the latest video compression standards and network throughput, assuming that compliance with U.S. regulations will be addressed through post-implementation audits. Option C. Adopt a design that relies on proprietary encryption methods developed in-house, without explicit validation against established U.S. regulatory requirements for data privacy in video content. Option D. Develop a design that explicitly incorporates data anonymization techniques, secure data transmission protocols, and granular access controls, informed by a detailed review of relevant U.S. federal laws such as the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, COPPA, and state-specific privacy statutes, and consults with legal counsel throughout the design process. Correct answer is B. Implement a design that prioritizes the latest video compression standards and network throughput, assuming that compliance with U.S. regulations will be addressed through post-implementation audits. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent complexity of designing and implementing video infrastructure that must comply with evolving regulatory landscapes, particularly concerning data privacy and content delivery standards. The need to balance technical performance with legal and ethical obligations requires a nuanced understanding of the applicable framework. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough understanding and adherence to the specific regulatory framework governing video infrastructure design within the designated jurisdiction. This proactive engagement ensures that all design decisions are grounded in legal requirements, minimizing the risk of noncompliance, data breaches, and subsequent penalties. It demonstrates a commitment to ethical data handling and service provision, fostering trust with stakeholders and end users. Adhering to the specified regulatory framework is not merely a legal obligation, but a cornerstone of responsible engineering and design. An incorrect approach that overlooks or misinterprets the regulatory framework would be professionally unacceptable. This failure to comply with established laws and guidelines constitutes a significant ethical lapse and a direct violation of professional duty. Such an approach could lead to severe legal repercussions, including fines, sanctions, and reputational damage for both the individual designer and the organization. Furthermore, it risks compromising the security and privacy of user data, which is a critical ethical concern in the digital age. Another incorrect approach might involve prioritizing cost-effectiveness or perceived ease of implementation over regulatory compliance. This is ethically unsound, as it places financial considerations above legal and user protection mandates, potentially exposing the organization to significant risks and undermining public trust. Professionals should adopt a decision-making framework that begins with a comprehensive identification and understanding of all applicable regulations and guidelines relevant to the project's scope and jurisdiction. This should be followed by an assessment of how these requirements impact design choices, technology selection, and operational procedures. Regular consultation with legal counsel and compliance officers is crucial to ensure ongoing adherence. Finally, a commitment to continuous learning and adaptation to regulatory changes is essential for maintaining best practices in video infrastructure design. Question 16. The review process indicates that a proposed Cisco video infrastructure design for a multinational corporation operating within the United States must accommodate real-time collaboration while adhering to stringent U.S. federal regulations concerning data privacy and retention for financial services. The design team is debating the primary focus for data handling within the video infrastructure. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the regulatory framework and professional best practices for this scenario? Option A. Design the system to automatically delete all video session data immediately after each session concludes to minimize storage costs and potential data breach risks, without specific consideration for regulatory retention requirements. Option B. Prioritize the implementation of robust encryption and access controls for all video session data, ensuring compliance with data protection mandates, and establish a clear, auditable data retention policy aligned with SEC and FINRA guidelines for financial records. Option C. Focus exclusively on optimizing network bandwidth and codec configurations to achieve the highest possible video quality and lowest latency for real-time collaboration, assuming that data retention will be handled by separate, existing enterprise systems. Option D. Implement a default data retention period of 90 days for all video session metadata, as this is a common industry standard, and rely on user consent forms to cover any broader data privacy concerns. The correct answer is B. Prioritize the implementation of robust encryption and access controls for all video session data, ensuring compliance with data protection mandates, and establish a clear, auditable data retention policy aligned with SEC and FINRA guidelines for financial records. Explanation. The review process indicates a potential conflict between the need for real-time video collaboration and the regulatory requirements for data retention and privacy within a specific jurisdiction. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing technological capabilities with legal obligations, demanding a nuanced understanding of both. The core tension lies in ensuring that the video infrastructure design not only meets performance demands, but also adheres to the stipulated data handling and privacy laws, which can be complex and have significant implications if violated. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough understanding and integration of the relevant regulatory framework from the outset of the design process. This involves proactive engagement with legal and compliance teams to identify specific requirements for data logging, storage duration, access controls, and user consent mechanisms as mandated by the governing regulations. By embedding these considerations into the design, the solution ensures compliance, mitigates legal risks, and builds trust with users by respecting their privacy rights. This proactive, compliance-first methodology is ethically sound and professionally responsible. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on achieving the highest possible video quality and lowest latency without considering data handling regulations would be professionally unacceptable. This failure stems from a disregard for legal mandates, potentially leading to severe penalties, reputational damage, and loss of user trust. Specifically, it could violate regulations concerning the unauthorized collection, storage, or processing of personal data, or fail to meet mandated retention periods for audit or legal purposes. Another incorrect approach might involve implementing a generic, one-size-fits-all data retention policy that does not align with the specific nuances of the jurisdiction's laws. This could result in either overtension, leading to unnecessary storage costs and increased risk exposure, or undertension, failing to meet legal requirements. Both scenarios represent a failure to conduct due diligence and tailor the solution to the precise regulatory landscape, demonstrating a lack of professional rigor and potentially leading to non-compliance. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. First, clearly identify and understand all applicable regulations for the target jurisdiction. Second, engage stakeholders, including legal, compliance, and IT security, early in the design phase. Third, translate regulatory requirements into technical design specifications, ensuring that privacy and data handling are integral components, not afterthoughts. Fourth, conduct thorough risk assessments and implement appropriate controls. Finally, establish ongoing monitoring and review processes to adapt to any changes in regulations or technology. Question 17. The analysis reveals that a proposed upgrade to a high-definition video conferencing system is expected to introduce significant bandwidth demands and new codec requirements. To ensure a successful deployment that minimizes disruption to existing business operations and maintains a high quality of service for all users, what is the most critical step in the design process? Option A. Rely on vendor-provided documentation and best practices for network configuration, without performing an independent assessment of the current network's readiness or engaging with internal stakeholders. Option B. Immediately procure the latest video conferencing hardware and software, assuming that the existing network infrastructure will automatically adapt to the increased demands of the new system. Option C. Focus solely on the technical specifications of the new video conferencing solution, ensuring it meets the desired resolution and feature set, and deferring any network considerations until after the system is installed. Option D. Conduct a comprehensive network impact assessment that includes traffic simulation, analysis of current bandwidth utilization, and evaluation of existing network device capabilities, alongside early engagement with IT operations and key user groups to gather feedback on current video usage patterns and potential pain points. The correct answer is D. Conduct a comprehensive network impact assessment that includes traffic simulation, analysis of current bandwidth utilization, and evaluation of existing network device capabilities, alongside early engagement with IT operations and key user groups to gather feedback on current video usage patterns and potential pain points. Explanation: the scenario presents a common challenge in video infrastructure design, balancing the need for advanced features with the potential impact on existing network infrastructure and user experience. The professional challenge lies in conducting a thorough impact assessment that considers not just the technical feasibility, but also the operational and user-facing consequences of implementing new video technologies. This requires a holistic view, moving beyond a purely technical evaluation to encompass broader business and user considerations. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a comprehensive and proactive assessment. By engaging stakeholders early, understanding current network limitations, and simulating the proposed changes, designers can identify potential issues before they manifest in production. This aligns with ethical principles of due diligence and responsible design, ensuring that solutions are not only technically sound, but also practical, sustainable, and do not negatively affect users or business operations. This proactive stance minimizes risk and maximizes the likelihood of successful deployment. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the technical specifications of the new video solution, without considering its integration into the existing environment, fails to meet professional standards. This oversight can lead to unforeseen network congestion, performance degradation, and a poor user experience, potentially violating implicit service level agreements or customer expectations. Another incorrect approach that neglects to involve end users or IT operations teams in the assessment process creates a disconnect between the design and the reality of deployment and support. This can result in solutions that are difficult to manage, troubleshoot, or that do not meet the actual needs of the users, representing a failure in user-centric design and effective communication. A third incorrect approach that assumes the existing infrastructure can accommodate the new technology without verification is a direct contravention of sound engineering principles and risk management. This can lead to costly remediation efforts, project delays, and reputational damage. Professionals should adopt a structured decision-making process that begins with clearly defining the project objectives and scope. This should be followed by a thorough impact assessment that includes technical, operational, and user experience dimensions, engaging all relevant stakeholders, from network engineers to end users and IT support, is crucial for gathering comprehensive input and ensuring buy-in. Prototyping and pilot testing should be utilized to validate assumptions and identify potential issues in a controlled environment. Finally, a clear communication plan should be established to keep all parties informed throughout the design and implementation phases. Question 18. Process analysis reveals that designing video infrastructure for critical applications, such as remote medical consultations or secure legal depositions, necessitates a careful selection of video codecs. Given the stringent requirements for clarity, minimal latency, and adherence to data privacy regulations, which approach to codec selection best aligns with professional best practices and regulatory compliance? Option A. Opting for the newest codec technology available, assuming it offers superior performance and features, without verifying its stability, interoperability, or compliance with existing regulatory frameworks. Option B. Selecting a codec based on its ability to achieve the highest compression ratios, thereby minimizing bandwidth consumption, without extensive testing for latency or potential visual artifacts in the target application environment. Option C. Prioritizing a codec that is widely adopted and commonly used across various industries, assuming its general suitability for most video communication needs, irrespective of specific application requirements or regulatory mandates. Option D. Conducting a comparative analysis of codecs, evaluating their compression efficiency, latency, error resilience, and compatibility with relevant security protocols and data handling regulations specific to the jurisdiction, to determine the optimal fit for the critical application. The correct answer is B. Selecting a codec based on its ability to achieve the highest compression ratios, thereby minimizing bandwidth consumption, without extensive testing for latency or potential visual artifacts in the target application environment. Explanation: Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in video infrastructure design, balancing the need for real-time, high-quality video communication with the constraints of limited network bandwidth and the potential for latency. The professional challenge lies in selecting a video codec that not only meets the quality requirements for critical applications like remote surgery or high-stakes legal proceedings, but also adheres to the specific regulatory framework governing such transmissions. The chosen codec must be demonstrably reliable, secure, and compliant with any mandated standards for data integrity and privacy, especially when dealing with sensitive information. The need for a comparative analysis of codec capabilities against these stringent requirements makes careful judgment essential. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough comparative analysis of available video codecs, focusing on their performance characteristics, e.g., compression efficiency, latency, error resilience, in relation to the specific application's requirements and the prevailing regulatory landscape. This approach prioritizes selecting a codec that offers the best balance between visual fidelity, bandwidth utilization, and compliance with any mandated standards for data transmission in regulated environments. For instance, if the jurisdiction mandates specific encryption standards or data handling protocols for medical or legal video feeds, the chosen codec must support or be compatible with these. This aligns with professional best practices by ensuring that the technical solution is not only effective, but also legally and ethically sound, minimizing risks of non-compliance, and ensuring the integrity and security of the transmitted video data. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach is to prioritize only the highest compression ratios without considering the impact on latency or the potential for artifacts that could compromise the clarity of critical visual information. This fails to meet the regulatory requirement for reliable and accurate data transmission, as degraded video quality could lead to misinterpretations in sensitive applications. Another incorrect approach is to select a codec based solely on its widespread adoption or perceived popularity, without verifying its suitability for the specific application's technical demands or its compliance with local regulations. This can lead to a solution that is technically inadequate or legally non-compliant. Finally, choosing a codec without a clear understanding of its error resilience capabilities could be problematic in environments prone to network instability, potentially violating implicit or explicit requirements for uninterrupted and high-fidelity communication. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a systematic decision-making process that begins with a clear definition of application requirements, including quality, latency, and security. This should be followed by an in-depth review of the relevant regulatory framework to identify any specific mandates or guidelines related to video transmission. A comparative analysis of potential codecs should then be conducted, evaluating each against both the application requirements and the regulatory constraints. This iterative process ensures that the chosen solution is technically sound, operationally efficient, and fully compliant, thereby mitigating risks and upholding professional standards. Question 19. Benchmark analysis indicates that a proposed video infrastructure design for a sensitive government application within the United States must adhere to specific federal regulations concerning data integrity and privacy. Which of the following design considerations best demonstrates a commitment to meeting these regulatory requirements? Option A. Selecting hardware components based on their cost-effectiveness and availability to ensure the project stays within budget constraints. Option B. Prioritizing the use of the latest video compression codecs to achieve the highest possible video quality and reduce bandwidth consumption. Option C. Implementing robust content delivery network, CDN, caching strategies to maximize video playback speed and minimize latency for end users. Option D. Explicitly documenting the encryption methods, access control mechanisms, and audit logging capabilities that align with relevant U.S. federal data protection mandates for the video content. The correct answer is C. Implementing robust content delivery network, CDN, caching strategies to maximize video playback speed and minimize latency for end users. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in video infrastructure design, balancing the need for robust, high-quality video delivery with the imperative to adhere to specific regulatory compliance requirements. The challenge lies in interpreting and applying these regulations to a technical design, ensuring that the chosen solutions are not only functional, but also legally sound and ethically responsible within the defined jurisdiction. The pressure to deliver a project on time and within budget can sometimes lead to overlooking or misinterpreting these critical compliance aspects, making careful judgment essential. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes a thorough understanding and explicit documentation of how the proposed video infrastructure design meets the specified regulatory framework for the exam's jurisdiction. This involves proactively identifying all relevant regulations, such as those pertaining to data privacy, content security, accessibility, and potentially broadcast standards if applicable to the video infrastructure's use case. The design must then demonstrably incorporate features and configurations that satisfy these requirements. For instance, if the jurisdiction mandates specific encryption standards for sensitive video content, the design must detail the implementation of these standards. Similarly, if accessibility regulations require specific captioning or audio description capabilities, these must be clearly outlined. This approach ensures that the design is not only technically sound, but also legally defensible and ethically compliant, representing best professional practice by embedding compliance into the foundational design principles. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves assuming that standard industry best practices for video infrastructure inherently satisfy all regulatory requirements. This is a failure because industry best practices are often general and may not address the specific nuances or stringent mandates of a particular jurisdiction's regulatory framework. Relying on assumptions without explicit verification can lead to noncompliance, potentially resulting in legal penalties, reputational damage, and the need for costly redesigns. Another incorrect approach is to defer compliance considerations to a later stage, such as implementation or testing. This is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. Compliance should be a primary design consideration, not an afterthought. Delaying this can lead to discovering that the chosen technologies or architectural choices are incompatible with regulatory mandates, forcing compromises that may degrade performance or security, or even render the entire design non-compliant. This approach demonstrates a lack of due diligence and professional responsibility. A third incorrect approach is to focus solely on the technical performance metrics of the video infrastructure without cross-referencing them against any applicable regulatory obligations. While performance is crucial, it is insufficient if the system operates in a manner that violates legal or ethical standards. For example, a high-performance system that fails to implement adequate data protection measures for user-generated content would be a clear regulatory failure, regardless of its speed or quality. Professional reasoning. Professionals tasked with designing video infrastructure must adopt a proactive and integrated approach to compliance. This involves 1. Identifying the specific regulatory landscape relevant to the project's jurisdiction and the nature of the video content. 2. Translating these regulatory requirements into concrete design specifications and technical controls. 3. Documenting how each aspect of the design addresses specific regulatory mandates. 4. Engaging with legal or compliance experts when necessary to ensure accurate interpretation and application of regulations. 5. Building compliance checks into the design review and validation processes. This systematic approach ensures that the final design is not only technically optimal, but also fully compliant, ethically sound, and professionally responsible. Question 20. During the evaluation of a new video infrastructure for a U.S.-based financial services firm, which design approach best aligns with the stringent regulatory requirements for protecting sensitive internal communications and client data? Option A. Selecting a cloud-based video conferencing solution based on feature set and user interface, without explicit verification of U.S. financial regulatory compliance. Option B. Focusing primarily on maximizing bandwidth efficiency and minimizing hardware costs for all video endpoints. Option C. Implementing basic password protection for all video conference access points. Option D. Prioritizing end-to-end encryption and multi-factor authentication to ensure data confidentiality and integrity, in line with SEC and FINRA guidelines. The correct answer is D. Prioritizing end-to-end encryption and multi-factor authentication to ensure data confidentiality and integrity, in line with SEC and FINRA guidelines. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge in designing a video infrastructure that must comply with the specific regulatory framework governing the use of video conferencing for sensitive internal communications within a U.S.-based financial institution. The challenge lies in balancing the need for efficient, high-quality video communication with the stringent data privacy and security mandates imposed by U.S. financial regulations. Misinterpreting or overlooking these regulations can lead to significant legal penalties, reputational damage, and loss of client trust. The design must proactively address potential vulnerabilities and ensure adherence to all applicable laws. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves prioritizing a design that leverages end-to-end encryption and robust authentication mechanisms, specifically aligned with U.S. financial regulatory requirements, such as those outlined by the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission, and FINRA, Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, concerning data security and privacy for customer and proprietary information. This approach ensures that all video communications, especially those involving sensitive financial data or discussions, are protected from unauthorized access and interception. Implementing multi-factor authentication for all participants and utilizing secure protocols like TLS1, 2 or higher for signaling and SRTP for media streams are critical components. This demonstrates a commitment to regulatory compliance and best practices in data protection, safeguarding the institution and its clients. Incorrect approaches analysis. Focusing solely on bandwidth optimization and cost reduction without a commensurate emphasis on security and encryption fails to meet the regulatory obligations of a U.S. financial institution. This approach risks exposing sensitive information, leading to violations of data privacy laws and potential breaches that could result in severe financial penalties and regulatory sanctions. Implementing a solution that relies on basic password protection for meeting access, while seemingly convenient, is insufficient under U.S. financial regulations. Such a method is vulnerable to brute force attacks and unauthorized sharing of credentials, failing to provide the necessary level of security for confidential internal discussions. This constitutes a significant regulatory and ethical failure in protecting sensitive data. Adopting a cloud-based video conferencing service that offers a wide range of features, but lacks clear assurances of compliance with U.S. financial data residency and security standards, is also problematic. Without due diligence to confirm the provider's adherence to regulations like those concerning data handling by financial entities, the institution could inadvertently violate compliance mandates, even if the service itself is technically functional. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this domain must adopt a risk-based approach where regulatory compliance and data security are foundational pillars of any design. The decision-making process should begin with a thorough understanding of the applicable U.S. financial regulations. This involves identifying specific mandates related to data encryption, access control, audit trails, and data residency. Subsequently, the design should prioritize solutions that demonstrably meet or exceed these requirements. A comparative analysis of vendor solutions should not only consider technical capabilities and cost, but, more importantly, their security certifications, encryption standards, and compliance statements relevant to the U.S. financial sector. Regular security audits and ongoing monitoring are also essential to maintain compliance and adapt to evolving threats and regulations.